Good afternoon, everybody. Oh, Keith Engle here with Major League Baseball update. How are you? Been a little while since we've done this show. I'm not sure what this, I got to figure out what all these little blurs are. Since I came back from vacation, the lighting's all off in the studio. I apologize. Hope everybody's having a great day. We'll talk a little Major League Baseball today. Maybe look at the, maybe we'll go team by team quickly and grade the off seasons. You guys can comment on who you think had the best off seasons. You can talk about how you think your team did. I'd like to talk a little bit about, did Scott Boras, Darth Vader, misjudge the market? He's still got four players out there. Right? So what's he got? Who's he got left? Snell, Montgomery, Chapman, JD Martinez. Bellinger gets less than he would have liked from the Cubs, going back to the Cubs. So I don't know if I get it. Hello, Daniel Barry, Sports Highlights. How are you? Great to have you with us. Happy Friday to you. Anybody with any comments about Major League Baseball? And by the way, some news since we've been on. We'll go back and look at some of the guys maybe that signed since we've been off, although we know who all those are. We'll just teams. The commissioner of baseball, who is my arch nemesis because he's doing everything he can to ruin a game. I've often said, do we think that we can survive his reign? He's announced he's going to retire, but in 2029. Today be good. I mean, I just can't stand where he wants to shorten the pitch clock more. I understand we need some of these rules. I did like the pace of play being better last year. I don't like it being forced by a pitch clock. There are rules in place to sorry, work is distracting me. There are rules in place to make the game go along at the natural pace, but everything's got to be artificial with this guy. We'll see how it turns out. I don't know. But it's good to be back. Good to be back with a Major League Baseball update. We haven't done it in a while. We were off for 2 weeks on vacation, as most of you know. And again, I want to welcome everybody on TGI Sports Talk on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. Those of you watching also on Northeast Streaming Sports Roku channel, we welcome you. Get out there and download that if you have Roku. It's free, and there's a lot of great content. Although Let's Talk Sports people on YouTube, welcome there. Also, a lot of great content there. And Northeast Streaming Sports, tons of great content on Roku, on Facebook, on YouTube. We'll probably have some decisions to make here in the coming months. I don't know. But we'll see how that goes. Scott Boras. Who should sign these guys, by the way? Who should sign? There's Linda from Roku. We're having a great show. We haven't done a Major League Baseball update in a while, and I apologize for not having live content. We've had some repeat shows and whatnot. But with the baseball season coming up, we certainly want to get caught back up. And we'll be on weekly giving you updates on standings, on what's happening in the world of baseball, trade speculations, managers on the hot seat, everything you can think of. So anyway, let's jump into the I want to go alphabetically here. We'll talk about some of the teams' off seasons. The Arizona Diamondbacks made it to the World Series last year. Unexpectedly. Another thing to think about in the coming weeks before the season starts in 20-some days, 25, 28, 29 days. Who's going to be this year's Diamondbacks? Right? It'll be the Reds. Although I don't think the Reds are coming out of nowhere. Who's a team, and maybe we'll talk about a little bit as we go through here, and I'll comment, this could be a team to watch. I'm a little surprised at what the Diamondbacks did. I like what they did in getting Eduardo Rodriguez, free agent from the Tigers. They needed a third man. It was basically Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, and then pray for rain. But they went out and got Rodriguez, which is a good move. What I didn't understand was some of the moves that they made on offense. I don't even see him listed here in my notes, right? They went out and got Eugenie Suarez. They went out and got Jock Peterson. These are guys who don't really fit the mold. These are a lot of swing and misses, and they're three true outcome players. three true outcome players: home runs, walks, and strikeouts. Low batting averages. Not really what the Diamondbacks were about last year. They needed some pop. And they needed third base help. So I get Suarez a little bit. He's a decent fielder. He's not great. They had Evan Longoria over there and some other Matt Bruss. Is that Matt Bruss from St. John's? God bless you, Matt. Good to have you with us. Matt, not to digress, but when I see somebody like Matt pop in, I want to thank Matt. Matt was one of the first guests I had on when I was doing a lot of interviews outside of this type of show. And I do want to get back into interviews again and hopefully get some of Matt. Maybe we'll have Matt back on and talk some college basketball before we get to the tournament time. Matt, maybe I'll get you on the college sports huddle on Wednesday night. Think about that if you're still with me, and give me a thumbs up, because we're going to talk St. John's back in the mix somehow, back from the dead. I digress. I know this is the Major League Baseball show, but I saw Matt, and I want to thank him. Again, one of my early guests when I was doing a lot of interviews, which I hope to get back to. And Matt was a great interview talking about his time at St. John. So, and I do follow Matt on Facebook, and I'm glad to see that he's following the show a little bit. Thank you again, Matt. Back to Suarez. Again, he's averaged about 30 home runs since 2021, but he's probably averaged about 250 strikeouts too. I'll probably get thrown that back at me, but whatever. So anyway, I would say, it was a mixed. Overall, I guess I give them a B+. Maybe. The Braves, the Braves could run it back probably and not even worry about it, because they've got that much talent. I thought signing Chris Sale was a very strange move. Actually, it wasn't a signing; it was a trade, and they gave up on Vaughn Grissom, who I think, excuse me, still has some potential. Rick Sager's with us this morning. How are you, Rick? Good to have you with us out there in Montgomery County. Always working hard with the safety of Montgomery County, the firefighters and Fort Johnson. Great job out there, Rick. Want to give you a thumbs up, too. Maybe this will be what we do for the show today, because I'm very distracted. Oh, God. Chris Sale might be back. I don't know, though. He had about 4 good starts at the end of the last year. Was getting hammered all over the place. The Yankees beat the crap out of him. You still got some music playing. But he's, now he's the one big pickup, I think, for this team. They did pick up Jared Kelenic for the outfield. A couple of lefties for the bullpen. And really didn't give up a lot in the way of talent. So I think the Braves, I think, are the most talented, the most well-rounded team in baseball, at least in the National League, if not all baseball. They got to make it happen in the playoffs. They did a couple of years ago. Again, it's not like they've never got it done. Sorry, this team is too good not to go further. The Orioles, I just love what the Orioles have done. They've got one of the best young players in Gunderson at shortstop, one of the best young players in the league, one of the best young catchers in the league behind the plate. They pick up Corbin Burns for the rotation. They do have a couple of starters that are going to be hurt. And we'll go through this. We'll have an in-depth preview. This is going to be pretty quick going through these teams today. But we'll have an in-depth preview with my good friend, my brother-in-law, and baseball guru, Drew Ehrlich, probably middle of March. We'll do probably a 2-hour preview show. I feel like I'm talking a million miles an hour, man. I still got a cup of coffee next to me. Boy, what it is today. So anyway, good things ahead, I think. The Orioles could have done some more in the offseason, but getting Corbin Burns, I think, is enough to keep them rolling. The Red Sox, this is the worst starting rotation in baseball. I mean, their big move this offseason was getting Lucas Giolito and Tyler O'Neill, who's a nice piece, but on a team with very little talent other than it's the third baseman whose name is escaping me at the moment. Brilliant. That's what happens when you get old. Names come and go. Oh, I wish Drew was with me today. He can always fill me in when places I have little lapses. But the Red Sox, I think, again, I've said this they're going to be the worst team in the American League, I think. The Cubs, the big news was firing pretty much successful manager Brian Ross. They did come back and make a run at the wild card last year after a pitiful start, but they faltered at the finish line, and Craig Counsell was available, and they scoop him up, make him the highest paid manager in history. Now he's got to perform. They do bring back Bellinger. They bring back most of the core that was there last year. They lost Marcus Stroman to the Yankees. I didn't like this team last year. I don't like them this year. Well, again, we're just touching on these from 10,000 feet today, so we can get it all in an hour. Any comments you guys have about your teams or any of the comments I'm making, you feel free to jump in, and we'll certainly have some dialogue on that. The Chicago White Sox. God, this team's going nowhere. They tried all winter to trade their number one starter, Dylan Cease, unsuccessfully. He's still probably going to get traded, I would think, by the trade deadline. And they made no major upgrades. I mean, they brought in Paul DeJong, Eric Fetties. He never really had much going on. I don't know what the White Sox are thinking about. They had a losing offseason in my mind. The Reds, got a lot of young talent, a ton of young talent. They added some veterans, Frankie Montas, who was a bust for the Yankees. You can blame injuries if you like. But if it was injuries, is he going to be that much better? They do bring in Candelario, who had a great 3/4 of the season with Washington. Got traded to Chicago. Excuse me, we're starting to get a little cold here. Not from the cruise, I promise you. They bring in Nick Martinez as well. So they bring in some veterans to mix in with this youth that they have. They get some good starting pitching, good young kids. They made a giant leap forward last year. And again, you got to be careful. It's easy for these teams to take a step back. We get all excited and we see them take a step back. We see it a lot in sports. And, I would say this team is most likely to be the Diamondbacks of 2024, but still time for that to change. The Guardians, the big news there was they lost their manager, Terry Francona, to retirement in the offseason. They still didn't move Shane Bieber, and they haven't sorted out their infield log jam or addressed their outfield issues. So this team, I think, is going to finish last in the Central as of today. The Rockies were the Rockies. They did basically nothing. They did basically nothing in the offseason. They probably should look for a place for Bryant to go because he's miscast in Colorado. He'd fit great with a team like the Yankees. He'd fit great with a team like the Mets. But that contract now is going to be an albatross for the Rockies and for Chris Bryant ever getting out of Colorado. So, again, I would say Bud Black is probably on the clock right now as the manager on the hottest seat, let's say. The Tigers, how about the other managers? Well, absolutely. I would say that Chicago's manager, Pedro Grifol, is definitely on the hot seat if we're going to look at those things as well. What else? Tigers like the White Sox and the Royals. Man, they brought in a bunch of, I hate the word mediocre, but just marginal journeyman type players. And Mark Canha, Jack Flaherty, Kenta Medea, Chafin. Is that going to put this team over the top? They don't sign Eduardo Rodriguez. Why he wouldn't take a trade to the Dodgers last year still baffles me. Everything we heard at that time but he wanted to stay close to the East Coast to family. Well, he signs in Arizona. I mean, it's a strange. Hello, Ralph Williams. Good to have you with us. I didn't mention Ralph at the top. I apologize, Ralph. Ralph Williams from RW Media. Great follow this show. Also does some great stuff on his website or his page and with RW Media in general, specifically the Sports Corner with Smoking Jim Frazier, Tuesdays at 5 p.m., 12:30 a.m., 99.3 FM, WBVP radio there in Pittsburgh. Check them out. Great to have you with us, Ralph. And sorry for the cough, ladies and gentlemen. Astros. Again, Astros, another team, probably can just run it back, right? They got to expect some veterans maybe to bounce back. They did bring in some bullpen help, but they need Altuve to certainly stay at peak form. They need Bregman to bounce back a little bit. They certainly need their young shortstop to bounce back. And they've got a lot of pitching. If it holds up, pitching is very, very what's the word I want to use? It's very, very, it can go either way. Pitching is, I'm trying to think of they're like, I don't want field goal kickers aren't a great thing. You guys get hurt all the time. And we talked a lot about why, because they don't pitch enough, right? But you can't have too much pitching. When we get to the Yankees, we'll talk about it. The Yankees think they're really in good shape. They're wrong. They're counting on 3 guys in the rotation who were injured last year or short on experience. And Marcus Stroman. Oh. Cole better go out and have another Cy Young year. That's all I can say. The Royals, again, are the Royals getting better? Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Hunter Renfroe, journeyman players at best on bad teams. These are players that should be going to good teams to fill out those rosters and give them depth. Yet we're seeing them go to teams like the Royals and the Tigers that are not ready to compete. I mean, do we see the Tigers or the Royals as being this year's Diamondbacks? I don't. Who else we got here? We got JB. Good afternoon, JB. Check out JB's Back It Up Binge podcast. I know you can catch it on Twitter or X. I mean, quit changing. Don't. Guys that are old like me, I'm going to be 64 years old, guys. Stop changing names of things. I got a hard enough time remembering the names of what they are previously. If you keep changing names, I'm screwed. So anyway, JB, thanks for stopping in. Oh, God. The Angels, they've been tied to rumors about Blake Snell and JD Martinez. Again, another team that really didn't do much in the offseason except lose the best player, one of the best players, in baseball. Ohtani, obviously. Should have traded him at the deadline. I have no idea what they were thinking about. If they were going to negotiate with him, they could have done it as a free agent just as well as they did with him as a member of the team. They lost. They would have lost either way. They would have got something at the deadline. I don't understand it. So, and by the way, the Angels, speaking of the Angels, Anthony Rendon, if you don't like the game you're playing, then go do something else. Stop taking hundreds of millions of dollars from the Angels and other teams, potentially other teams in baseball, and doing something you just don't like. And if you don't like it, and here's a little advice for other Major League Baseball players. If you don't like your job, which is a game, by the way, a game, then go do something else. I don't get it. Go do something else, or don't speak up about it. Be quiet. What does Anthony Rendon have to gain by saying, it's baseball's just, it's a job where I make a bunch of money? Is there any manager in baseball with more pressure on him this year than Dave Roberts? They bring in Ohtani. The team was already in pretty good shape, won 100 games last year. They've won the division now a bunch of years in a row. They did win a World Series in COVID, the COVID year. But they bring in Otani. They bring in Glasnow. They bring in Yamamoto from Japan. This team is loaded for bear. Dave Roberts has got more pressure on him than any manager in baseball would be my take. And again, these are just really brief synopsis. Like I said, we'll dive in depth with a real preview here probably in a couple of weeks on probably a Tuesday night or something like that. I'll let you guys know well in advance through this website. The Miami Marlins. I don't know what's going on there. I haven't known for a while. Are they better this year? I don't think so. I don't see where they did anything to improve their offense. Their infield has got some of the worst range in collectively, maybe the worst range in all of Major League Baseball. Their offense there just isn't enough of. They got a ton of young pitchers. And that's every year it looks like the same thing. They just don't score enough runs. Now they find a way to make it work and contend for, the last wild card spot. And if that's going to be your ceiling, oh man, if I'm a fan, I got to say, what are you doing? Excuse me. The Brewers, they lose their manager, who they wanted to keep, in Craig Counsell, and I think he's one of the best managers in baseball. They trade Corbin Burns. They were considering trading Woodruff, but he's got he had shoulder surgery and free agency. Willie Adames, they are looking to potentially move him as well before his walk here. This team could be definitely on the way down for a while. They didn't have enough bats last year. They didn't have enough bats the year before. They had tons of pitching. The pitching's thinning out. The overall talent of the team is thinning out, and they may decide to start from the bottom up very soon. Team to fall off the radar this year to watch for, the Milwaukee Brewers. And the Marlins, for that matter. The Twins, another work in progress. They got rid of a couple of their better players in Polanco. I know low batting average, not a great fielder, but he always seems to have decent numbers. They got rid of Max Kepler, also I think they both went to Seattle. And they did get some pitching back, but they lost Sonny Gray. They lost Medea. They lost Tyler Mahle, who's out for half the season next year. Pagan. I don't think this is another team to watch out for falling off. The AL Central is going to be, win by default the way we're looking at it right now. Now, what do we got here from JB? The Brewers got two really good guys in a Burns trade. I agree. DL Hall's a really good player. Young, unproven though, and Ortiz does have a lot of upside. I agree, and he was blocked pretty much by Gunderson. But it goes to what I'm saying. I think the rest of the veterans, Adames, et al., are probably going to be moved by the trade deadline, if not before. And this team's going to look to start over, and you can see it with the trade of these two guys. Again, while they're great talents, we don't know how good they're going to be yet, right? We know how good Corbin Burns is. So they're building for the future, which is fine. That's their right to do that. And hopefully it works out for them. Hall was hurt last year, but came up and had a great second half of the season. I don't doubt, again, in the long run, the Brewers will be happy, but I think they're a team that will take a fall this year, JB. I really do. That right now, talent-wise, on a Major League Baseball level, this team, let me take a look real quick at it since we're zeroing in on the Brewers. Let me take a look quickly at their depth chart, right? As I like to do. So let's take a quick look at their depth chart. And we'll look at below average or average. Their starting rotation was Woodruff and Burns at the top before. Okay? Now you've got Peralta, who's a decent, proven Major League Baseball pitcher with injury concerns. Wade Miley, I can pitch better than Wade Miley tomorrow, or at least you could, JB. And I do know you know these players as an Orioles fan. Aaron Ashby, DL Hall, and Colin Ray, who, again, talent got to produce. Delvin Williams, Devin Williams, excuse me, is a lights out reliever. That's a plus there. But the starting rotation to me, DL Hall is going to have has lots of potential. I get it. Peralta, when healthy, is a very serviceable. I hate to use that word. Mad New Yorker uses it. I get mad at him. He's a decent major league pitcher. That's two guys. You need five guys in a rotation. And I would say the same thing about the Yankees, by the way, JB. Contreras is a good bat at catcher. Maybe lacks a little bit defensively. They signed Gary Sanchez. Nobody's going to get excited about that. Ryan Hoskins at first base. I'm not getting excited about that. Another three true outcome player. Signed Jake Bauer from the Yankees. I've seen what he can do or can't do. I do like Terang a little bit. I like Ortiz, as you mentioned before. Adames still has lots of talent, but they're going to look to trade him by all accounts. Yelich, who had a good rebound season last year, is on the backside of his career. Sal Frelick and Chichiro, again, young guys trying to make their way. So again, this team, while probably heading in the right direction and doing the right thing, it might take some time for them to attain the success that they've had the last several years. Just one man's opinion. That's all I can say there. But you're right. There's some talent going that way, JB. The Mets. Who the hell knows what the Mets are doing? I mean, the biggest move of the offseason was probably getting one of the Brewers executive, David Stearns, and now he's pretty much dismantling this team. There's not enough pitchers. Now, Senga might be out for an extended period of time. I've heard some talk about the shoulder socket, which is bad injury, if that's the truth. I can't remember what they call the injury. But if that's the case, I believe that's the same thing that derailed. Oh, God. Here we go again. Their other phenom. They're counting on Severino to be healthy. Mets are heading for disaster, I'm afraid. They got some talent around the field, little Alonso, certainly at shortstop, but they've got holes. They haven't found one of the kids to be able to fill the hole at third base. Alvarez at catcher has got some potential. I think he showed some potential towards the end of last year. Needs to stay healthy. Probably heading in the wrong direction this year. The Yankees, again, that pick up Juan Soto. We don't know if it's a rental or for long term. I don't know how they're going to afford it. They are the Yankees, though. I don't like the Verdugo trade. I would rather have had Bellinger. And as it turns out, probably at similar money, or not quite as much more money as you thought it might be. So I'm not crazy about Verdugo. I'm not happy that Judge may have to spend a lot of time in center field this year. If you traded for Bellinger or signed Bellinger, you could have played him in center field and played Soto and Judge on either side of him, and not move Judge out of right field into center field. I'm not crazy about that. I still worry about the pitching, as I said. Third base with DJ LeMahieu with a couple of bad years in a row now. He's not getting younger. I love DJ, but he's not getting any younger. I love the kids. I love Wells. I love the rookie outfielder Spencer. But they're not going to contribute this year. They haven't even attempted to sign Gleyber Torres to an extension, which I'm happy about, to be quite honest. Not a big Gleyber fan. Ended up with decent numbers last year, but when you watch him, he doesn't pass the eye test to me. The biggest problem with this team is fundamentally they're not a sound baseball team. Gleyber Torres is a perfect example of that. His strategy on the base pass is basically run until you get tagged. You can't win baseball games that way. You can't win pennants that way. And Aaron Boone needs to hold these guys accountable for a change. I'm tired of seeing him in post-game conferences just making excuse after excuse for bad base running, missing cutoff men, fundamentally bad baseball. You're responsible for that, Aaron. There's my Yankee explosion for the day. Oh, the Athletics. What's there to say about the Athletics? They're trying to negotiate a new lease with the Oakland Coliseum for another year or two before they move to Vegas. The fans are probably going to stay away in droves. They've got very little talent on the team, and hiding in Vegas would be a good place for this team. JB, what do you got? Yanks will be fine. Yanks were fine last year at 82-80. Yanks won't be fine. I mean, it depends on your definition of fine. I'm not saying they're going to lose 100 games, but this team you have seen, by the way, Soto's a great hitter. He's a below average defensive player. I've seen him 100 times not run out ground balls. I see enough of this with the Yankees. I'm tired of seeing this stuff with the Yankees. I'd rather be watching the Orioles with a team that young guys that bust their ass all the time. "82 games they won last year. They're not going to be fine. They got one pitcher, one healthy, proven pitcher in their starting rotation, Garrett Cole. I told you last year Carlos Rendon would be a bust, and he was, injury-wise and pitching-wise. I understand he's shaved his mustache and he looks like a different player because he put on some bulk. Carlos Rendon was not built for New York City. Not built. I feel the same way about Blake Snell, by the way. Nestor, I love. Still got to prove he can pitch a couple hundred innings a year. Clark Schmidt, I like a lot, but again, he's going to throw a lot of innings. He did stay healthy last year. He pitched better towards the end of the year. And Marcus Stroman's up and down. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to get from Marcus Stroman. Loizaga is really good in the bullpen as a Swiss Army knife, but he doesn't stay healthy. I don't trust Holmes at the back end. The base running is atrocious. Here's the key. The key to this team, and I've said it on a couple of shows, Anthony Rizzo is the key to this team. If Anthony Rizzo bounces back, he's a glue to that infield defense, and he's a lefty bat in that lineup. They got Soto now, but Rizzo is also another guy protecting Judge. And Rizzo being out last year probably hurt this team as much as anything. But the bad fundamental baseball will not go away until Aaron Boone starts holding these guys accountable. If they stay healthy, yeah. But again, we saw this team in the playoffs since 2009 flame out every year because of two things. They don't hit elite pitching because it's home run or nothing. We don't know how to move base runners around. We don't know how to manufacture runs. We play bad fundamental baseball. So as long as this team is healthy and hitting home runs, they're going to hit a lot. They're going to score. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're going to get beat by the Astros or by the Orioles or by the Blue Jays. I've seen the same thing. Judge and Soto are a tough matchup for anyone. I agree with that. Take the jacket off. I appreciate you sticking up for my team. I'm tougher on my team than anybody. I always root for my team to win. I want to be wrong. I tell this all the time. I lost my Yankee card on the Mac and Jack show last year because I railed on the Yankees. I'm going to. Until they prove me wrong, and I see Gleyber Torres doing something other than running the bases until he gets tagged out, you don't win pennants that way. You need to play good defense. You still need to have fundamentals in baseball. As much as they tried to turn this into a video game, it's not. Starting pitching, timely hitting, good defense, good fundamentals, they win all the time over talent. Ugh. Anyway, thank you, JB, though, for sticking up for my team. I appreciate that. Because right now I can't do it until I see something else. And that, by the way, when I say we need more depth in the starting rotation, I don't want Blake Snell. I do not want Blake Snell. He'll be Rendon 2.0. And I hope Rendon comes back this year and proves me wrong. But I said last year, before he ever got hurt, that Rendon was not going to fit in New York. I had a big argument with one guy in particular, on one of the Yankee sites who, he messages me personally, which is fine. I'm always willing to respond to people and engage. But as soon as you give an opinion, they jump all over you. Well, more often than not, I'm right. I'm not always right. I know you've heard my my new axiom, whatever. My motto is Billy Packers. I'm sometimes wrong, but never in doubt. I feel very strongly the way I feel. Thank you. Who does that anymore? Maybe the Orioles do it. Small ball, Billy Ball. Billy Ball. What we need is a manager, not like Billy Martin after games or going after players, but a Billy Martin style manager. Small ball. You can have home runs in small ball, but you can also manufacture runs. When those sluggers go into slumps, you aren't sitting there losing game after game and scoring no runs because you know how to manufacture runs. Anyway, Phillies. I don't know. I mean, they did bring back Aaron Nola, which I think is good, but they probably overpaid him. They did ink an upside reliever in Jose Ruiz, I guess is a better pronunciation. They picked up Josh Fleming and Michael Mercado from the Rays. This is a pretty good team that, again, not great defense. Ryan Hoskins being off this team, probably for the best. Bryce Harper, we'll see what he can do defensively now with a year under his belt at first base. But they got bats. They strike out a lot. They hit a lot of home runs. They're your team of the 2020s. And I love Rob Thompson, by the way. Love Rob Thompson to death. So happy he got that job. I've said 100 times here when he got the job with the Phillies, that I'd wanted Rob Thompson to be the manager of the Yankees before they hired Joe Girardi. That's how bad. Or I'm sorry, Aaron Boone. When they fired Girardi and hired Boone, I said, let's hire Rob Thompson. You see what kind of manager he is. The Pirates, the Pirates are just happy to be mediocre. I think mediocre is their ceiling. Not even contending. When was the last time they contended for a playoff spot? 10 years ago? 12 years ago, Clint Hurdle was the manager. I mean, they're full of really mediocre players. They signed Marco Gonzalez and Martin Perez. Man. Not looking good in Pittsburgh. We'll dive deeper there too. San Diego. They lose their manager. Melvin walks away from the mess that there is out there. They're already moving Bogart to. They're talking about moving Xander Bogart to second base if they haven't already. They lost Soto with nothing. Very little. Well, actually, I think they did very good in that trade. I think Michael King will be the key to that trade. You're going to see him pitch very well, I think, in San Diego. And probably they're doing the right thing and tearing down some of the stars here. I mean, Tatis needs to stay healthy. Manny and Tatis need to get along. Schlick needs to be a good manager and stay out of the way. Or maybe not stay out of the way. I don't know what to expect out of San Diego. They may actually be a better team than what they were with Soto, and some of the stars maybe moved away. We'll see. The Giants still need some players. I like what they did signing the lead kid from Korea. Another guy I would like to see the Yankees pick up instead of Verdugo. I think that was a really good trade. I think bringing Bob Melvin in to manage was a great move. They did bring in that was Jung Ho Lee, by the way, and also brought in catcher Tom Murphy as well, who's a decent player. But behind Logan Webb, they don't have much in the rotation. Another team, really, a lot of teams are shorter with starters. The Giants probably could use Snell. That'd probably be a good place for Snell to go. That'd be a good place for Chapman to go. I'd like to see Yankees pick up Chapman as well. Good defense. Bats, maybe not what it was, but good defense. Seattle, I don't know. Mitch Garver, you know, not a high average hitter, but he has some pop. Whether he's going to catch or be the DH is debatable. Polanco, decent hitter, not much of a fielder. They finished a game out of the playoffs last year. Are they a game better right now? I don't think so. They got one of the great talents in the game, and Rodriguez. They got some decent young players. Crawford's a good hitter, but not such a great fielder at shortstop. There's some talent there. There's some really good pitchers there. But I just get the feel that it's not the right mix. It's not the right chemistry in Seattle. We'll see, and we'll dive deeper into that as well. The Cardinals. Sonny Gray, he's pitched well in his career outside of his tenure with the Yankees. Not unusual. But Lance Lynn, Kyle Gibson, they dumped Tyler O'Neill. Is there much else there? The Cardinals and Carlos Marmol might be the second hottest seat behind Bud Black. This is not going to be a good season, I don't think, for the Cardinals. So it remains to be seen whether they're going to bounce back. And they have a history of bouncing back after bad years. We'll see how that works out. Kevin Cash and the Tampa Bay Rays. They keep finding ways to win and trading away guys. They traded Manuel Margot to the Dodgers, who just keep getting richer. But they keep coming up with player after player after player, and losing Glassnose and better players than Margot. But they continue to win, or at least contend. We'll see how long that can hold out. The Rangers. I was anti-Ranger all last year. I said this team wasn't built right. There wasn't enough guys getting on base. They'd improved their on-base percentage. They improved, contact with the ball. But they have got a bunch of pitchers that they're going to have to wait for until midseason, including DeGrom, Scherzer, who they're playing a boatload of money. Tyler Mahle, now who they had signed to be their fifth starter, but he's not going to be available till midseason. Kirby Yates, who hasn't pitched well or significantly in, I don't know, 3 or 4 years. Rangers, I feel like, are going to come back to earth this year. I know, Alan Perales, you won't like to hear that, but I think that's what's going to happen. The Blue Jays, last year's prediction was Schneider would get fired by Memorial Day and Donnie Baseball would be the manager. I'm going to predict that again this year. They didn't. Their two big chases for the offseason were Soto and Ohtani. They didn't get either one. They did retain Kiermaier. He's a good outfielder. His bat has been deteriorating. They did sign IKF from the Yankees. I don't think that's going to really put them over the top. I think this team is going to digress, and Schneider's going to be on the at least third hottest seat in baseball. Donnie Baseball might be the manager there sooner than later. And Washington's a mess. They are going to welcome some of the young players that they've been accumulating in trades over the last few years, and Cruz and Wood and House, but they're not ready to win. They did bring in Nick Senzel, who's shown flashes over the years with the Reds, but again, these are cost controlled players. Put a team on the field and hope next year things get better. This team is not going anywhere. I think we all know that. See who else we got here. Kevin Byers, good for you seeing us. Albert Moore. Just looking at some of the people who maybe have been here and not commented. Tom Adam, check. Oh, Tommy, how are you, buddy? Listen, you can see I'm out of AA after the trip. I only took half the time to rehab normal people do. Oh, God. Let's see what else is going on in the world of baseball real quick. Let's look at the some of the news around the league, and then we'll hop off of here. Fanatics is trying to defend itself. You know, the uniforms have become one of the big stories of the off season. They were being made by oh God, who was making the uniforms? Let me pull this up. Fanatics is now Fanatics founder Michael Rubin says the company is being unfairly blamed for the new Major League Baseball uniforms, by the way, that were designed by Nike. They're ill-fitting. There's design problems. They got see-through pants in a lot of cases. And I'm trying to think who they were getting these from before. Fanatics. Fanatics has been making the baseball uniform since 2017, but Nike had this new design. I thought we had a new uniform designer. It's hard for me to believe that this is, something that's carrying big news in the major leagues, but it has been. Dave Roberts talked about the fact that the Dodger caught by surprise that Ohtani got married. Is he supposed to fill them in on everything? Was that supposed to be part of the contract negotiations? Congratulations to Shohei Ohtani for getting himself hooked. Major League Baseball average salary rose to a record $4.5 million last year. That's a 7.1% increase. It's risen 23% over 2 seasons. Luxury tax payrolls, there's a lot of players, man. You got guys. Ohtani signed a $700 million contract. Yamamoto, $325 million. There is a new cap in town, man, and it is getting, their average salary is $4.5 million. Good for them. The good news is son of Blue Jays player Eric Swanson is out of ICU. He was hit by a car down there at spring training last weekend. Had been in ICU since then. He's out of ICU, and I believe pretty much out of the woods, and the company feels blessed. Just a tragic accident that could have been worse, and we certainly wish the family well. Philly scrap dog collar night. I'm sorry. I read that wrong. Dog collar night. Dollar dog night, citing fan behavior. If you remember, it turned into an ugly incident last year when they had this night. So we do away with it. Because we can't have fun at ball games anymore. Because every time they have something that's fun, every time we put together something that's fun, I realize that's probably disgusting, so excuse me. Some unruly fans got to ruin it. And I'll say again, like I've said on a couple of different things. Fan behavior in sports in general is off the charts bad. Bad. It is time for the leagues to rein this in. Just because you bought a ticket, people, and by the way, we have a social... I've said this before. I did a vlog on this a couple of years ago when we had an incident in the NBA where racial epithets were being thrown at a player's family in the stands. We'd had a couple instances of fans coming on the field or the court. You buy a ticket, you can boo, you can jeer, you can do whatever you want, but do not try to interact with the athletes. Do not throw racial epithets at the athletes or their families. You didn't buy anything except the right to sit in a seat and cheer and boo. And do it in a classy kind of way. We have a social contract with each other. To me, this is indicative of what's wrong with society today. We have a social contract with each other that we ignore. Could be when we're on the highway and instead of waving somebody through on a yield or whatever, we just give them the finger and blow past them. We do not look out for each other in this country the way we should. And guys, we're heading in the wrong direction. We're circling the bowl. Sports is a microcosm of society. I'm telling you, and I've told you this before. Anyway, that's just my little editorial for the day. Corey Boros. Bellinger says he's excited, despite the fact that he didn't get the long-term big contract that he thought he was going to get. He got a 3-year, $80 million contract. He's not hurting for money. But I mentioned at the top, Scott Boros, I believe, misread the market for his players. Cody Bellinger is really the only guy of consequence that he has had signed, I believe. He's still got 4 guys out there unsigned. The pitchers, Snell and Montgomery, got to get in this week or they're not going to be ready to start the season. The position players might be. But this is just not good, guys. Not good at all. Oh, what else? Is there any other news? You guys got nothing for me? Hernandez re-signs with the Yankees. Kiki Hernandez looked into signing with the Yankees, who are still looking for a utility man where Cabrera kind of went off the rails last year. They're hoping that he bounces back this year, but they're looking for a veteran utility man. Hernandez was kicking the tires with the Yankees before he signed with the Dodgers. There's my boy, Chris. The more connected we are on social media, the less we're connected with person to person. Excellent call, Chris. For kids today that grew up in social media, it's no holds barred everywhere. I agree, because you can do things in social media that you really shouldn't be doing in real life, right? And if that's your interaction that you've learned, we bully everybody. We can say whatever we want. That's not the way life is supposed to be, guys. And social media should not drive the way the real world interacts with each other. But Chris is absolutely right in saying that it does. So, I'm going to wrap it up for today, guys, because I've got a little something going on here myself. And I do want to wish you guys all a happy weekend. I'm glad that we got back and at least got to interact a little bit. Thank you, guys, to all of you that joined me today. And those of you that interacted, we'll be back Sunday. Excuse me. We'll be back Sunday with the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. There goes my cough again. Hold on. I apologize. I swore I wouldn't get sick after vacation this year, this time. Anyway, we'll be back Sunday with the Stream of Consciousness, Sunday Stream of Consciousness. We'll have lots of fun there. We'll be back next Wednesday with the College Football Huddle, next Friday with the Are You Serious show. And, of course, we'll try to be on very regularly with this show, 3 p.m. Fridays, the MLB update. And once we get into the season, we'll certainly have lots more going on. Keith Engle for Major League Baseball update. Have a great, great weekend, guys.